I've come to a rather breezy, damp New York City today to meet an inspiring band of people who have transformed a post-industrial abandoned lot into a garden full of life and vitality. Gil, when I think of New York City, I don't think of like a beautiful green oasis like this. What's the story here and how did you get involved with it?
Back when I moved to the city in 2010, I really wanted to garden, but there was waiting lists at all the community gardens up to 2 or more years to get a small plot. But I also noticed there was lots of vacant lots in New York City, and I figured if there's a demand for community gardening, vacant lots, I put the two and two together. I decided to start a guerrilla garden, and I had coordinated with some people that I had met during my first year in New York City, and we did some research over that winter, and in 2011 we started this garden. So we just focused on a very small area, basically this area from here to where the grape arbor is down there, and we cleaned the trash, we cultivated the soil, we built some beds. We also planted a couple fruiting trees and berry bushes that first year.
Amazing. So this is a pretty industrial area, got railway tracks over there. What was the soil like? Was it in okay shape or was it a bit dodgy?
Yeah, I mean, before we started this project, we took soil samples from around the sites right next to the railroad tracks, which has been here since the beginning of the early 1900s. And in other places, there's dumping that had gone along around the edges of the roads.
Okay.
We found some hot spots, but we also found that right near the railroad tracks, there was a little bit of elevated arsenic.
Oh gosh.
Everywhere else, you know, no level of lead is a safe level of lead, but so there was some lead, but it was below both the USDA and the New York State Agriculture permissible levels for agriculture, but it was above what's allowed for like construction, residential construction, or a children's playground.
Right.
So we put mulch down to create a barrier of separation, and we also used compost and fungi, mycelium, to start working on cleaning up the soil through the process of bioremediation. The soil was relatively clean away from the railroad tracks, so we felt confident moving forward, demonstrating some best practices, but also knowing that we didn't actually need them. We also tested some of the plants, the leafy greens that we were growing in the ground a couple years after we started, and we got the heavy metal content of that, and it was very low. It was acceptable
so
as well. But generally, we try not to grow leafy greens in the ground just as a matter of demonstration. All of our leafy greens are in raised beds. All of our fruiting crops are in the ground, so that there's more separation from the soil.
More detachment, isn't there?
Yeah. So the science tells us that the farther away from the soil that the thing that we eat is, the less likely it is to have contaminants.
Makes sense.
And we wanted to demonstrate best practices for cleaning up the soil using bioremediation and making compost. It's an incredibly important resource in our urban environment. So we collect food scraps and we mix it with wood chips and sawdust and make compost. And we had 3-bin systems on the tracks, and we would move it around every season. We've had 3-bin systems on all of our in-ground beds, and just distributed the compost that was made, and the humic acid would be in the ground, working in the bed. So we've really prepared this soil in a lot of ways, from just building food scraps and mulch and creating those microbiomes that can lock up, bind, break down, and do all the good things with the potential contaminants, and build the soil.
It's amazing that, you know, actually the quickest, most thorough way of sourcing the soil is just to kind of work with nature rather than sort of digging it all out and being mechanical. You just give it time, give it the microorganisms in the soil, and you know,
it does take time. Composting itself takes several months, depending on the season here in New York. But the way that we've chosen to do it in situ really demonstrates the ethics and the mission of our organization to transform the environment from the ground up.
And this is look at this. This is some of your compost here that's been made.
So we've recently applied fresh compost to this. You got a little note on your nose.
That's always the way.
So this is compost that we've made elsewhere, but if we dig down in here, we would see a lot of older compost, and it really does show in the sponginess, the texture, everything in the ground, all over the garden. We've really transformed what used to be just a gravelly side railing from the railroad track into rich, fertile soil that can be grown in.
So Jenny, you're kind of in charge here. You're the president.
Oh, yes.
That's a great thing to be in charge of.
Oh, thank you. I totally agree. It
Yeah.
is one of my favorite places to be in New York City.
Yeah.
We've had these 2 hives successfully overwinter this year, which is no small feat in New York City.
Yeah.
So we're really awaiting a wonderful honey harvest this year.
Yeah. And how many pounds of honey do you reckon you'll get
Oh,
from these?
each one of the boxes is 50 pounds.
Okay.
We need to make sure that they have 100 pounds to overwinter.
Oh, I see.
And then the small one on top is called a honey super. So when these are completely full, they move up there and start producing honey.
Yeah.
And then we can start taking the smaller ones. And we leave these for them.
Great. So they get the lion's share and you get
Yeah,
the little
always.
dividend off the top. That's
Always.
great. Put on a coat, Gil, because I think I've brought the British weather with me, so apologies for that.
You're right, it's really starting to
Started-
pick up
yeah,
a little
exactly,
bit, right?
yeah. So like having this green space in a very urban environment, this must be really popular because it's like a place to kind of unwind and sort of connect with nature. Like what sort of people come here? Like what's the sort of schedule for having people come here and garden and yeah?
We really have to work to have regular events and bring together kind of like ad hoc communities. So today we have a group of master composters doing some work in our compost corner over here, and they've been brought together by some instructors at the nonprofit Big Reuse. So we really try to activate it and get a lot of people to come.
The impression I'm getting is that it's really isn't just about growing food. It's actually more about a community and education and outreach and kind of like planting that seed in people, and you know, it's not just the food.
People need to know that the produce that we purchase at the store comes from the ground. It comes from a plant that grows in the soil. A lot of people in the urban jungle, a lot of young people never saw a tomato plant or an apple tree or anything like this and don't understand the connection between our natural environment, the rain cycles, the seasonal cycles, the growing season, and when food is available and what's healthy, because it all comes from the soil.
So
and
true.
we seem to be so far removed from it in our concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So getting people out here and seeing it, experiencing it, starting seeds, seeing butterflies and icky bugs and the decomposition process
Yeah.
and all this, and normalizing that helps get people on the way, on their journey to food security, food justice, and food sovereignty.
Yeah. Gil, what's this? This is quite a sprawler.
Yeah, this is a hardy kiwi vine. Most people don't think that kiwi would grow in New York.
Yeah,
but
you'd
this
think
is
that-
a hardy kiwi vine.
Yeah.
So we have some hops and brambles right behind. We have mulberry and some cherry. These are white walnuts
Wow.
over here. We have fig and apple and pear
Yeah.
and plum and peach and blackberry and
And
blueberry.
that's one of the great things about growing stuff yourself, is that obviously if it is a bit difficult to process, and that's why you don't see it in the grocery stores so much, you've got it and you can try the more unusual varieties or the harder to peel things that are maybe less commercially viable.
And then it also attracts a lot of beneficial organisms, a bunch of beneficial insects, which then feed the insectivorous birds.
Yeah.
And from the kind of monoculture-like stand of mugwort, which is an invasive species here in New York and grows prolifically in disturbed areas, that we had here, there was a little bit of goldenrod and a little bit of milkweed that some other people were trying to cultivate
And
along
that's
the sidewalk.
important for the monarch butterflies. I
Yes, it's a
understand.
host
Yeah.
species
Yeah.
for the monarchs. So we've expanded the milkweed. I'm looking at some right now, and it's all over the place now. And we're trying to keep the mugwort at bay, but we have also incorporated, I'd say, hundreds of different varieties of plants that have introduced lots of soil life, that have introduced bugs that are feeding the birds. We had some groundhogs here. We've had possum and some other things that you really wouldn't expect. Of course, like the raccoons, but we've had a lot of wildlife. In fact, there's a corridor back in the back where a bunch of trees are growing, and during the pandemic, a bunch of bird watchers saw that, came and started watching, and on this Merlin app where bird watchers
familiar
document,
with that. Yeah.
it's become one of the most biodiverse areas in New York City outside of Central Park for seeing different birds.
So it's gone from a monoculture mugwort to pretty much one of the most biodiverse areas outside of Central Park. That is phenomenal.
It's a point of pride for me and all of our gardeners here that have been trying to cultivate this goodness for 15 years now.
Yeah. There's loads of zucchini here, and looks like you got some spuds ready.
Yes.
Plenty growing. So how does it work? Do you all grow together or individually in separate beds? What's the system?
So most New York City gardens, community gardens, have individual plots or family plots where people get like a 5x5 bed and grow whatever they want. But here we are an urban farm collective. We have a planting committee, we have our composting committee, bee committee. We work together in groups that are drawn towards certain things. People will sign up on the spreadsheet. I'm going to start these.
So you guys are all like divvying up, starting the starts and the plugs and so on, and then you bring out the plants ready to go. That's brilliant. What a great system.
We have a big community day. It's one of the biggest events of the year. We invite lots of volunteers. A lot of our members come and we plant everything out, but it's all done collectively. Then as we're growing, we're doing that together too. So we keep a task list of different things that need to be weeded, watered, harvested, and so on, so that we can refer back to that and know that we're all on the same page together.
Amazing. So Ryder, you're another key person here. How long have you been involved here?
Just 3 years, but it feels like a lot longer, yeah. And this is what happens. Everybody who comes here just gets obsessed with the place. It becomes a necessity to come here, a couple of times a week. Over here, you can just show up, start gathering next day. So that's what makes this place so special.
The thing I love the most is the people. Yeah, great to be here, see things grow, contribute to that. It's a wonderful addition to my life, I would say.
Fantastic. So what's this? I can see like thornless blackberries or...
Yeah, that's exactly. We have that growing on a trellis here. And this area, this slope between our main cultivation area and the sidewalk here on Skillman Avenue has a lot of fruit trees and berry bushes. This is plum. There's some peach right over here.
Oh, yeah, wow.
We have a lot of ground cover comfrey. There's lots of blueberries and elderflowers along this edge. We have persimmon and juneberry. We have fig, and we have some strawberries and different herbs.
It's a pretty extensive list for,
Oh, it just goes on and on and on.
incredible.
Everything that I listed, we have at least 2 varieties of as well.
And I'm noticing like it's just straight out into the street here. There's no fences or anything.
Yeah, that's another really important part of what we did here. There was no fence, there was no sign saying no trespassing. That's one of the reasons we chose this place. Our ethos is really that everyone should be able to come in and enjoy this. There is no fence, there is no gate. A garden without a gate is really rare in New York City.
Gil, you've given me a chunk of like sort of mycelium here, and there's a story behind this. What's the story?
Yeah, so this comes from a local mushroom farmer. They make mushrooms and sell them at market and to restaurants, culinary mushrooms. So this is spent mushroom substrate, SMS. They drop it off. It's a waste byproduct of their farming operation. And we use it, we mix it with mulch, and we've been applying it to this rail bed for almost a decade now. So the spent mushroom substrate is great soil amendment. It adds fungal properties, and the mycelium actually grows in a way that it digests the wood externally. So it secretes enzymes and it breaks down the wood and it goes down and it transforms the biochemistry of the soil beneath it as well. Especially oyster mushrooms have been shown in the labs to have lots of different enzymes that can break down lots of different chemicals.
Really?
They can't break down arsenic, but again, we're doing this as a demonstration of best practices. So we break this up and we put down a layer of mulch on top of it, and that turns into like kind of a mother pile of myceliated mulch. We're spreading mycelium underground network to right along these railroad tracks, working on these creosote-filled ties that have been here for over a century, and cleaning up that soil. It's been a practice that we've been putting in place over and over and over again.
And do you harvest the fruiting bodies, the mushrooms, once they're ready? Do you kind of is it a little bit...
We do not harvest in the places where we're actively using it as a bioremediation technique. In other areas away from the tracks, we have some mushroom beds of straw and wood chips where we're actually growing it to harvest the mushrooms.
Yeah, I see.
And we also inoculate some mulch on top of our beds, and we can harvest mushrooms from our growing beds, but we typically do not harvest from the railroad track area.
That makes sense. This is pretty impressive. You've been building stuff up. It's kind of almost like spongy.
Yeah. Again, we are focusing on building the soil, making the right conditions. We came together and we got actually about 12 tons of food scraps, and we combined it with an equal amount of wood chips, and we built a lasagna style hugelkultur biodynamic windrow here.
So you've layered food scraps, wood chips to get the nitrogen, the carbon, and just layer it up.
And below that we had a lot of wood, logs and branches. And then on top we actually added biodynamic preparations.
So you've got like these like eggplants, aubergines, basil, tomatoes.
Yes.
This is just going to go whoosh in like, you know, isn't it, over the next few weeks?
Yeah, so this is about the 5th year. The first year we planted Three Sisters, which is an indigenous planting style, corn, beans, squash. We did some sunflowers, but we have a crop rotation so that we're not depleting our soil, so we're not encouraging pests that might have a life cycle under the soil to come back the next year. So we rotate it out every year, and we really focus on having big events with lots of material, having lots of hands on deck, having people come and participate and learn about the process of building soil, starting seeds, maintaining, watering, harvesting, cooking, and preparing and sharing food together. So this is a pawpaw tree, this big, floppy, almost tropical looking leaves.
It does look tropical. I've never seen a pawpaw.
So this is a native tree, and it has these fruit. These are very small, immature. They'll grow to 4 or 5 times this size and be ripe in the fall. And this tree and the one right there were the first plants that we planted as we started this guerrilla garden. So these guys are almost 15 years old now. They were started from seed from one of our original founding members and planted here. So we're really proud of the different plants that we grow and the care that we put into saving and starting seeds and watching a fruit tree develop from a little seedling. It takes 7 to a dozen years for a fruit tree to start producing crops. So this didn't produce crops for a long time. Just a few 4 or 5 years ago, they started producing crops.
It's amazing to think that this was started by someone from seed. I mean, why wouldn't it be? But it's just like, you know, how tall is that now? It's wow. I've been pretty overwhelmed by just how lush and verdant this all is. And given what was apparently here before, it's really quite inspirational.
Yeah, well, our motto here is to reclaim the commons and cultivate community. So we really have been doing that over the years with probably thousands of volunteers, and we hope to have thousands more. So if anybody's in New York or visiting, please come on out to Long Island City. We're just 2 stops away from Grand Central on the 7 train, a couple blocks away from the station. Come visit us. Come during anytime. We're open all the time, but come during an event that we're hosting. Find us online and check us out.
I think it's definitely worth checking out. I've so enjoyed being here today. It's a real inspiration, Gil. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate you.